Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into an intense, chronological journey through what is, hands down, one of the most unbelievable survival stories in human history. I mean, we are looking at the ultimate test of endurance, teamwork, and just the raw, sheer will to live against totally impossible odds. It's a timeline of an event that literally shocked the world, pushing ordinary people to the absolute edge of what humans can take. So let's set the stage and trace exactly how this incredible story unfolded.
Okay, let's dive into this. The whole thing kicks off on October 13th, 1972. It was supposed to be just a routine flight heading over to Chile. You've got 45 people on board, a Uruguayan rugby team, the Old Christians Club, plus their families, friends, and the flight crew. The mood was super festive, right? Just a bunch of young athletes and their loved ones excited for an upcoming match, completely unaware of what was actually waiting for them.
But as the plane is crossing the towering Andes Mountains, the weather just violently turns. We're talking thick, heavy clouds swallowing the aircraft whole, basically blinding the pilots. And then, in a matter of moments, disaster strikes. The plane actually clips a mountain peak. The impact is so brutal that both wings snap right off, and the fuselage just plummets, eventually skidding to a halt on a remote glacier over 11,000 feet above sea level. Just like that, in a split second, the comfort of a commercial flight is entirely shattered by the brutal reality of the high mountains. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer, terrifying contrast to their situation. I mean, on one hand, you're looking at one of the most unforgiving environments on the planet. Temperatures plunging to 30 below zero at night, blinding snowstorms, just extreme, absolute isolation. And on the other hand, a complete and utter lack of preparation. Remember, they were dressed in slacks and loafers for a quick flight. No survival gear, practically no food, and absolutely zero way to communicate with the outside world to even say, hey, we survived the crash.
Let's move to and see how this builds. For the first few days, the survivors are huddled together inside that broken fuselage, meticulously melting snow just to get drinking water, right? They're holding out hope that rescue planes will spot them from the air. But then, by day 10, the unthinkable happens. The search operations are officially called off. And get this. They actually heard the devastating news themselves through a tiny rigged-up transistor radio they managed to fix. That's the moment they realize the world thinks they're dead. The wait is over. They are completely, truly on their own.
And if you can believe it, it actually gets worse. A massive, compounding tragedy hits just 17 days after the crash. The exhausted survivors are asleep, crammed inside the fuselage, when out of nowhere, a massive avalanche roars down the mountain and completely buries the wreckage. 8 more people lose their lives instantly. The rest of the group is trapped in this pitch-black, frozen tomb for days before they can finally dig their way out. The psychological horror of being buried alive in that tiny space with tons of snow pressing down on you is just almost unimaginable.
I want to just pause here for a second and ask you directly, what choices would you make to stay alive? Really, try to put yourself in their shoes for a moment. You are 11,000 feet up. You are freezing cold. An avalanche has just wiped out even more of your friends. And you are staring down absolute, literal starvation with zero hope of a rescue team coming to get you. They had to look this impossible reality right in the eyes.
So the crucial point is that with absolutely no food left and their bodies literally shutting down, the remaining survivors faced a truly harrowing decision. To stay alive, they made a heartbreaking but honestly necessary pact. They gave one another permission to use their bodies if they perished. It was this incredibly profound mutual agreement born out of the absolute deepest despair. It's a stark, unimaginable reality of this story, but factually speaking, without taking that desperate step for nourishment, absolutely no one would have made it off that mountain.
Time just crawled on. More than 2 full months go by with the group trapped in this frozen purgatory. Eventually, they realize that just waiting there, it means certain death. They have to do something. So 2 specific survivors, Fernando Parado and Roberto Canessa, realize it's time to attempt the absolute impossible. As the strongest guys left in the group, they decide they're going to leave the relative safety of the fuselage, step out onto that endless glacier, and go find help themselves.
And this brilliantly illustrates their journey, which was honestly nothing short of miraculous. Parado and Canessa leave the crash site and climb across the treacherous, snow-covered peaks of the Andes for 10 exhausting days. And keep in mind, they did this with zero mountaineering gear. They were sleeping in makeshift sleeping bags that they had literally sewn together from the airplane's insulation, using bodies that had been starving and pushed to the absolute limit for over 2 months. But their sheer stubborn determination pays off. Eventually, the snow breaks, the landscape shifts, and they hike down into a remote river valley.
Down in that valley, they finally see another human being. It was a local farmer on horseback. But there's a huge problem. A rushing river separates them, and the two survivors are way too weak to safely cross it. So they have to improvise. The farmer tosses a piece of paper and a pen over the water, and they quickly scribble down a desperate message, wrap the note around a stone, and chuck it back across the roaring water. The farmer reads it, instantly understands the absolute gravity of the situation, and rides off to get the authorities.
The second the authorities got the farmer's alert, rescue helicopters were dispatched high up into the mountains, and finally, after exactly 72 agonizing days trapped in one of the harshest environments on planet Earth, the remaining 16 emaciated survivors were pulled from the glacier and brought home. It was just this incredibly emotional, completely surreal end to a nightmare that had captivated and horrified the entire world.
The world watched in absolute amazement. I mean, doctors were completely baffled that anyone could survive for so long under those impossible physical and mental conditions. Today, this story stands as one of the greatest recorded examples of human courage, ingenuity, and pure teamwork. It really proves that even when hope seems completely 100% lost, the human spirit can pull off the impossible. So I want to leave you with this to think about. If all your external resources were totally stripped away, what are the absolute limits of your own endurance? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.